with a friend of mine after age 10 in the days of the Saturn V. What you see here is the Saturn V standing apparently on the launch pad at Cape Kennedy, Florida. Atop were some astronauts waiting to go on a trip to the moon. Here's the Saturn V on the launch pad getting ready for a takeoff. This particular launch was assisted by a black thread, and my friend at the time, my best friend, Mark Bowman. Mark's now a chief engineer at Allison Engine Company working on gas turbines. Once the Saturn V is up heading towards space, the first stage is expended. An inner stage connects the first and second stage. We show the stage coming apart here. In actuality, there is it's a two-piece event with the inner stage coming off separately. The ignition of the second stage. Shortly after this, an escape pod comes off that would have pulled the crew to safety in the event of a launch abort. After the end of the second stage burn, it will separate, and the remaining vehicle will be into an orbit around the Earth. A slight burn there to get things out of the Earth orbit. The command module comes off and exposes the lunar module. Comes back around for a docking in space to pull the lunar module away from the third stage assembly. Using its thrusters, it eases the lunar module, both ascent and descent stage, out of the top of the third stage assembly. Now we're in position to reorient and make a burn to put a correction and a course toward the moon. So here you can see the docked assembly. This is what the world might look like from space. You can see North America there under the letters NORTH. The world doesn't really spin that fast, and there really is not a line painted on the equator. Now, after insertion of orbit on the moon, the lunar module separates from the command module. It has two astronauts inside of it, leaving one astronaut inside of the command module to control operations. And it begins a controlled descent down to the surface of the moon, here depicted on the pool table in my basement by a quilt. Then the astronauts come out of the front of the lunar module. Here's a depiction of Neil Armstrong taking his first step on the moon. You can see there's a little plaque there with his name on it waiting for him. On the moon, various experiments were performed. You can see some of them here depicted in this model, with solar arrays and a flag and the astronauts with their EVA suits on. After the designated experimental activities and EVAs, the ascent module is ignited, leaving the descent module on the surface of the moon, where it comes back up and now rendezvous again with the command module. After a successful docking, the way is opened and the astronauts and the samples from the lunar surface are transferred back to the command module to get ready for the trip back to the Earth. Then the ascent module is jettisoned and left in an orbit around the moon. I believe it eventually goes back in. And then the service module is again reignited to get out of the orbit of the moon and head back toward the Earth. After a few days, you get near the Earth, and the command module then separates from the service module in preparation for re-entry to the Earth. Here's shown the command module starting through the re-entry process. You can see the red flare of the heat coming off. This is produced by putting one of my dad's 78 red records in front of the light. In this operation scenario, we have the USS aircraft carrier Enterprise waiting in the ocean for the splashdown. And we'll see the capsule coming back in here onto the ocean. Since the water is a little bit hard, you can see some cotton underneath the plastic on the pool table to soften the flight. You see a quick flash of my friend Mark Bowman there. This movie was made again when I was probably about age 10 or 11 or 12. My friends and I, when we were children, built all the space models, and together we each built one. And so one summer we were a bit bored and we made this movie. But it taught me a lot about rocket propulsion and rocket science. And even as a young man, I did took these models around and showed them to various places and activities. So watch out what you get interested in when you're a child. You may end up doing it when you grow up. Thank you very much.